2669, Lance Corporal Spears, Jason, city limits of Artray. With what seemed like ages having passed, Spears loaded another magazine into his rifle and fired selective shots into the enemy across from them, which seemed countless and unending. Behind him, Cameron was crouched over a raider as he applied pressure to a wound while he waited for a bio-foam canister to be delivered from Fields, who went to search their pods for one. This left Spears and several others to maintain cover fire. "Damn it, Fields, hurry it up or we'll lose him!" he yelled to the scavenging raider in question. "I'm trying! I almost got clipped," he replied. "And I don't think we packed any." "It's part of a survival kit, so you'd better damn well find it," he ordered, before firing a small burst of rounds into the window of a peeking Cellian. "How you doing, Cam? How's it looking?" Spears then directed a call to the person in question as they struggled to staunch the bleeding. He had just finished stuffing the wound with another fresh set of med gauze. "I still need the biofoam for its bioreactant, otherwise I can't seal the wound," he reported as he tried to search a small bag that contained dwindling medical supplies. He was just out of the one thing he actually needed. Spears cursed at their situation, turning to the 5 other raiders that fought with him. They were all new, having no markings on their armor except for the one person they were treating, a raider with white stripes on his shoulders and helmet. After they had landed, it was quiet initially, and while they tried to search for Jay, they were met with another group who had been attacked and were attempting to evacuate the only one who was shot. Unknown to Spears that they had also brought with them an entire patrol who were dead set on taking their lives, as well as it being their first firefight in a live scenario. Luckily, Spears had his mind right and began barking orders that they willfully obeyed. Since then, they had been doing nothing but fighting, conserving what ammo they had left, which had brought them to their current situation. "Find it yet, Fields?" he ordered, peeking over his cover to see that Fields was waist-deep in a pod where his legs were sticking out. Yeah, I think so. This it?" He flashed a canister that was shaped oddly, with a steel proboscis that delivered the foam. With strong affirmation amid the wealth of enemy fire, Spears said, "That's it. Now get your ass in here, ASAP." Before he knew it, Fields had returned to the side of Cameron, who began removing the previous set of gauze and placed the canister's tube into the wound. With a press of the handle, the canister sent out a wealth of its foam, filling the wound. With its delivery, the writhing corporal before them had stopped moving, and their breathing had stabilized. Cam relaxed on his rear, letting out a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness you found it, Fields. Didn't think you would," said Cam. "Hey, now you can't say I don't do nothing for you," he said with a smirk before a call from Spears captured his attention. "Now that you're back, watch our entries. We don't need any surprises," he ordered. As he continued to deliver a round across the way to his south, he was met with Cameron, who hid behind a portion of his cover. His rifle was slung and blood from the raider stained his thighs and lower torso, but paid no mind to them himself. "Spears, can you get in contact with Jay?" he asked pleadingly, to which he shook his head. "Got no comms right now, but it looks like the TAC map still works. Last I checked, he was less than a mile south, so he should be coming up soon. Hopefully he hears the noise and comes to help," replied Spears, delivering another burst of bullets into an uncovered enemy, killing them. "I hope he's all right," said Cam in a worried manner. "He will be. He's a good shot, and he's decent at moving quietly. If he's learned anything, he'll pop up soon enough." Cam nodded in agreement to the praise of his friend. He knew that they were all trained the same, but others took to the training more than some, with Jay taking to it along with Spears, Fields, and even Moran. Cameron knew this, scraping by, but knew deep down he wasn't a fighter like the rest, but instead found passion in saving others, just the raider they had saved. Spears noticed this and took a pause from shooting. "Look, I know this ain't exactly your gig, but you're a raider, and from the looks of it, we're light on medics, so why don't you focus on that? Just keep on you a sidearm or a PDW. You don't want to get caught without one. Good?" he said, trying to ease the mind of a faltering Cameron. Even now, Cam had yet to fire a single shot, as he couldn't bring himself to commit to the act. However, that didn't stop him from doing his duty to assist his teammates, most notably with his first assist in saving their corporal's life. But as they continued fighting, they had begun to notice the lessened volume of fire from the enemy, as they looked to be preoccupied with a new problem of their own. Spears then looked at his tactical map display, with others looking at it from afar, and noticed the tags above the friendly icon, Seaberet C410. "That's Jay!" yelled Cam, as he looked in the direction of where he was on the map, which was directly across from them in the building where the Celian soldiers had set themselves up. It was a wonder why they didn't advance, and Spears thought that they may have been waiting for reinforcements. Seeing this sudden change in focus, Spears ordered the other 5 raiders to do what they do best. "Ravens, split up and take the east and west approach. Use the buildings for cover. Fields, take over watch. Cam, take care of the corporal. Move it," he ordered, taking a spot with the team that had one less than the other. His team took to the west and moved through the building's office space with ease, avoiding most clutter and windows while clambering over anything that got in their way. As they moved closer, the gunshots grew erratic and desperate, mixed with explosions and the arrival of smoke that began to filter through the exposed windows. As he looked in the direction of the fight, a small, friendly waypoint danced around the building. He continued in a rush to assist Jay, but by doing so they ran into a small group of Celians who waited down below on the first floor, seemingly waiting for Jay. Without a moment's hesitation, Spears ordered their execution. "Contacts, front!" And a wave of Terran-made ballistics punctured through their armor and flesh, leaving them empty and riddled with holes as they moved to meet their comrade. They slowed their pace, after entering the enemy spaces, and kept their rifles raised to just below their eye line. They had met the other group that came from the east, reporting that they had no resistance. Hearing this, Spears ordered that they enter a tactical column as they progressed through the building just as they were trained. "Jackson, take point," he ordered, and their stack moved through the stairwell with purpose and caution. As per his suit's sensors, it indicated that Jay was on the 3rd floor, and his mini-map indicated that there were still some soldiers on the 2nd floor. That was his priority that his team began to execute. In a practiced manner, the team moved through the 2nd floor, securing the main hallway first before moving into the individual rooms that lined the hall. After clearing the first doors in a wide, sweeping angle, Spears would enter with his weapon poised and ready to fire. He took the northern side of the hall, which originally faced him and his team from across the courtyard. He noticed first the several motionless bodies that he suspected were from the first minutes of their encounter before sweeping the rest of the room. It wasn't large, so it offered little in the way of cover. There was, however, a door across of him that led into a parallel room that faced the courtyard. In a similar manner as before, he focused on clearing the corners of the room as he made a wide angle before entering. However, by the door that would lead into the hallway, there was a pair of Celians who hid behind some furniture. They were crouching, but his night visor identified them as foes and not as corpses, so he fired into them, reducing their red highlights into amber, the same color as the walls and plants were outlined with. He heard several more shots from across the hall, indicative of the pair's success. He opened the door and was met with the pair of raiders who took the southern offices. To their left, a stairwell that led to the 3rd floor was left unoccupied, and until now, Spears noticed the lack of gunfire that they were bombarded with prior, which left him wondering on the state of Jay. As they moved up to the 3rd floor, they found more of the same. Spent smoke canisters and fragments of Celian limbs about, most notably from the use of grenades or perhaps pure rage. He couldn't tell, but as he advanced, he was met with an open door, and within, Jay's waypoint sat motionless. Spears held up a hand, signifying the team to halt as he proceeded alone into the room, where he was met with a bloodied Jay. His left arm was dripping with red liquid as he wielded his sidearm in his right. When he walked up beside him, he saw who he had his handgun pointed to, a cowering chief with 2 of his subordinates dead in a pool of their own blood, with it staining the chief's gray-colored clothing. But before he could get a word in, Jay fired into the head of the Celian chief, causing the rest of its body to go limp. Spears then spoke to the stoic Jay to see if his mind was still right, especially after a scene he had just walked through. "You good, Jay?" he said softly. Jay then holstered his sidearm and picked up his spent-suppressed rifle and nodded. "Yeah, you guys got any meds?" he replied, turning towards the exit. "Cam's got 'em. Might even have some mags for your S4, too," offered Spears. "Didn't he use 'em?" he inquired as they made their way down to the first floor. "He didn't have it in him to commit. Hell of a medic, though, I'll tell you," praised Spears as they entered the courtyard where their pods sit. "Looks like our zone is clear, so I'll set a resupply beacon. In the meantime, go see Cam. He'll take care of you." As he approached their bullet-riddled building, he was met with a wave from the windows. It was Fields. He climbed to the second story where he was met with a busy Cam who was seen treating their only wounded. Cam was slow to notice but lit up at the sight of seeing Jay, then quickly turned worried upon seeing the wounded Jay. "What happened?" he said, rushing to the side of his most damaged appendage. "Just a firefight," he said, before taking a seat on an available chair. Cam then removed what he could of Jay's pauldrons and forearm plates before assessing the damage. "Luckily, it's just a flesh wound. Round must have crazed you, but it tore your environmental suit. Let me patch it," he said softly as he began to work. His eyes were soft, yet focused, and his hands worked delicately before applying needed pressure to certain parts of his arm for the bandage to adhere to. He assisted Jay in donning his armor after injecting him with a minor painkiller before finishing up. "I applied a medical-grade salve so it should help with numbing the area and boost the healing process. Just let me know if it starts to hurt, and I can reapply a sting," he said before packing up his gear and returned to the corporal. "What happened to him?" asked Jay, as he took the time to rest while he could. "Took a sniper round in his lower abdomen, just below his ballistic protection. Not even the kinetic fluid would have stopped it. I don't think he'll be able to walk unless he gets treated at a facility, but the nearest one is Alameda." Cam had begun to sulk when Jay placed an arm on his shoulder in reassurance. "We just need to call for a medevac and let them know his condition. There might be a ship in the fleet that could at least stabilize. Won't do 'em good to be down a single raider," he said with confidence. The only issue was, their comms were still down, but they could still issue a beacon for a resupply. With a crash, Jay directed his attention to Fields, who looked wholly unconcerned with the sudden crash, which told him they had their supplies. "Ask, and you shall receive," said Fields, as he motioned his chin towards the courtyard. "Got supplies, so stock up while you can. We got orders to destroy whatever we don't take, so load up." Jay nodded, as did Cam, and headed down towards the site of the supply cache. It was a moderately sized crate that had boxes of ammo for just about any weapon they employed in the TRSC, and they took what they could. Aside from just ammo, they were also filled with a wealth of medical supplies and extra bags for each to carry. While each person settled with an extra bag attached to their left thigh, Cam settled for extra, placing them on both legs and filling his backpack with even more medical supplies than one would reasonably carry. They weren't given any new weapons to play with, so they were stuck with using what they had dropped with. "If we're good, let's blow this, then regroup with the main force. Thomas Jackson, see if you can make a stretcher from what you can find. We need to exfil the corporal. We can't leave him," ordered Spears before turning to Cameron. "Cam, go with them and make sure it's good enough to lift with. For now, you're our medical expert." They all agreed to his terms and began working, leaving Spears, Jay, Fields, and 3 of Raven Company to pull security while his order was fulfilled. And when they were filled with extra supplies, promptly detonating what they didn't use, to deny the enemy possible resources and ammo. Even with limited map functions, they were all forced to remember their attack plan as previously briefed on multiple occasions, and their latest was from Sergeant Faith, whom they had yet to get in contact with. However, they followed what they were told to do and continued to fight. To not place their wounded in harm's way, they would send them away while the rest would move opposite of them so that they wouldn't draw the enemy's fire. That was the case for the first several instances when Spears, Jay, and Fields conducted ambushes against mobilizing troops that allowed for Cam and most of Raven Team to move while the enemy's focus was on the diversion team. "Fields, Jay! Nades! Use 'em!" ordered Spears, as he fired several well-placed shots into the group of vulnerable Sellians. He targeted important-looking individuals, those who usually sported robes instead of armor and an undersuit. The rest of his team focused on the other soldiers who surrounded them, throwing high-explosive grenades into pools of concentrated enemies, resulting in a bloody mess. Several of their ambushes ended in this way, those with unsuppressed rifles taking most of the focus while any who had some form of a suppressed weapon flanked. Mix with the constant gunfire from the distance or the ships flying overhead, it was nothing short of overstimulus for the unfortunate. When all became quiet, Spears spoke. "That's another patrol, boys. Good work. Let's regroup with Cam and his team. We shouldn't have much to go before making rendezvous with Sergeant Faith." "How much longer, boss man?" sounded Fields as he inserted a fresh magazine. "Not too far. The meetup is supposed to be a courtyard big enough for some drop ships, and that's where we're supposed to prep for Stage 2, explained Spears. "Stage 2, questioned Fields, to which Jay said with chide, "You really didn't pay attention to the briefs, did you? All you need to know is that we have to push to a secure location and prep to attack the main objective. With that, we need to secure several locations that can provide a safe place for ships to land," said Jay with disapproval in his voice. "I can only listen to the same thing so much before I tune it out, all right?" When he finished, Spears paused him as he held a finger to his helmet's comset, asking for silence. It was sudden, but his action caused those around him to hold their breath. "Understood, Sergeant. We'll move now, but we have wounded that need a medivac. Understood. We'll get it done." By now, they had regrouped with Cam and his detail when Spears received a call, where they received a call that was transmitted on all levels for all raiders. "All companies, this is Raptor Actual. I have mission authority, so I'm updating your TAC map with waypoints for likely targets and platoon advances. Stand by and execute your orders when received." It was from a voice they haven't heard before, nor seen the individual who called themselves Raptor Actual, but they were believed to have been the deep space element that was rumored. Jay wondered how they operated so far out with little to no support, but found it inspiring to say the least. And as he said, their tactical displays were updated with live pings of large enemy movement. It was simply by suggestion that they understood their current mission, which was to assault these large forces of enemies while their positions were revealed. In addition, their range of the display was increased, revealing larger concentrations of raiders, allowing for a larger troop planning. And with it, waypoints were updated for each team too far from one another, each tasked with an appropriate objective. And theirs just happened to take them close to their primary objective. "Listen up," addressed Spears to his team. "We have our mission now, but we can't abandon the corporal. Cam, you'll take your detail to the nearest raider patrol, while Fields, Jay, and I make some noise. Ravens, you're on guard duty, and like the Major said, if they wear armor and weapons, and they're not a raider, you put them down. Follow your map and take the path of least resistance. We'll kick up the dust so you can move with ease. Good?" The Ravens affirmed with a nod and set off with Cam in tow towards the largest group of raiders. However, the rest of their Cobra fire team remained as the three, set with a task by order of the current mission authority, Raptor Actual, to assault any and all enemy patrols. "Search and destroy, huh?" said Spears. "I think we can do that." They readied themselves, checking their ammo, grenades, and everything they stored away into their packs and pouches that could assist them in making as much noise for the enemy as possible.